About 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion pretty late at night, and the drive was about 2 hours. I didn't stay the night because I had to be back for work the following day. Most of the drive was on roads with dense bushes and trees on either side, the real creepy ones you see a lot in movies. Anyway, I had been driving for about 45 minutes, and I was starting to get really tired. You know how sometimes you just suddenly become really tired, out of nowhere? Well, yeah, that happened to me. I knew I wasn't going to last, but I didn't come across any place that I felt I could park and safely sleep. Anyway, after it became clear to me that I wasn't going to find a place to pull up, and my tiredness wasn't going away, I did something very questionable. I pulled over to the side of the road onto the grass behind some bushes to try and hide my car from anybody else who was going to come past. The roads weren't empty. I came across another car every few minutes or so. I made a mental note that the time was 11:22 and then fell asleep. Sometime later, I was awoken by a scratching sound. I looked at the clock, 11:50. The sound stopped after a few seconds, and because I was still extremely tired, I didn't bother looking around and simply went back to sleep. I was later awoken by the same sound, and it was now 12:40. This time, it really freaked me out because the sound didn't stop. The thought ran across my mind that it was just an animal inspecting the car. But why would it return almost an hour after it had left the previous time? I looked in my rearview mirror and just managed to catch a glimpse of something running away into the forest. Now at the time, I thought it was the damn hook killer. You know, the one that scratched that couple's car and then slaughtered the guy when he got out to investigate. Fuck that, I thought to myself, so I got the hell out of there. There was a bend no more than 100 yards up the road, and as I came around it, there was a fucking car parked off to the side of the road with the driver's side door open. I slowed down just to look to see if anyone was in there. There wasn't. Then I looked in my rearview mirror. I didn't see anything, and all of a sudden this guy comes sprinting around the corner. He starts screaming at me, shouting stuff like, "Hey, you! Get the fuck out of your car, now!" I noped the fuck out of there and sped off. I never saw the guy again. Moral of the story: don't fucking sleep on the side of a deserted road. Story 1. Why does Mom always forbid me from going down to the basement? Mommy told me never to go in the basement, but I wanted to see what was making that noise. It kind of sounded like a puppy, and I wanted to see the puppy, so I opened the basement door and tiptoed down a bit. I didn't see a puppy, and then Mommy yanked me out of the basement and yelled at me. Mommy had never yelled at me before, and it made me sad, and I cried. Then Mommy told me never to go into the basement again, and she gave me a cookie. That made me feel better, so I didn't ask her why the boy in the basement was making noises like a puppy, or why he had no hands or feet. Story 2. Have you slept yet? A young boy is sleeping in his bed on a usual night. He hears footsteps outside his door and peeks out of his eyes to see what is happening. His door swings open quietly to reveal a murderer carrying the corpses of his parents. After silently propping them up on a chair, he writes something on the wall in the blood of the dead bodies. He then hides under the child's bed. The child is scared beyond belief. He can't read the writing on the wall, and he knows the man is under his bed. Like any child, he pretends that he slept through the whole thing and hasn't awoken yet. He lies still as the bodies, quietly hearing the breaths from under his bed. An hour passes, and his eyes are adjusting more and more to the darkness. He tries to make out the words, but it's a struggle. He gasps when he finally makes out the sentence. True story time. I was about 4 or 5 years old and my parents had just separated. My mum was living in a 2-bedroom apartment and I had my own room, but I preferred to sleep in her bed whenever I was staying with her. Our 2 bedrooms were at the end of a hallway, directly across from each other. Our apartment was on the first floor, and I remember that it was in the middle of the summer, and my mum had a window open in her room, which was directly behind the bed, above the headboard. Anyways, I woke up in the middle of the night and remember sitting up and seeing that our cat was sitting in the doorframe of my mum's room. Her door was open, and you could partially see into my bedroom. This was strange because our cat was typically always in bed with us. As I was watching him, he walked into my bedroom and meowed. I turned to face my mum and wake her up. In the 3 to 4 seconds it took her to wake up and ask me what was wrong. We both looked back up in the door frame, and a man was standing by my open door, making his way out of my bedroom. I still don't know how she managed to do it so quickly, but my mother proceeded to pick me up and literally throw me out of the screen window. Again, we were on the first floor and it was maybe 3 foot drop to the ground. She quickly followed, and we were able to start screaming for help, and someone called 911. The police came, but didn't see any signs of forced entry, only that our front door was unlocked, which led them to believe the man must have exited that way. The strange thing was that my mum swore up and down that she had locked the door that night with the deadbolt and chain lock. About a week later, she was cleaning the kitchen and opened up our water heater closet and found a notebook with names and drawings, as well as a pair of gloves and some gum wrappers. The police were called again, but all they could do was speculate that the man had been in our house and had hidden until we were asleep. A terrifying but true story I experienced when I was 12. I moved to my dad's when I was 10 and didn't know anyone in the area, except for the family my dad was friends with. Single mum with 3 kids. Luckily, there was a girl a couple of years older than me, 12 at the time I met her, and we got to know each other over a couple of years. We weren't close, but ended up having the same friends. One night, my friend Rob was hanging out with her and her younger brother. They happened to be in the house alone because my friend's mum was at work, which is where this gets terrifying and sad. Her mother has been helping this one lady through her work and got to know her fairly well. She found out her sister was in a mental institution and was let out recently. The night Rob is hanging out with my friend, they get a knock on the door. My friend thought it was just their mum. She knocks a certain way when coming in and answered it without thinking. Rob wasn't supposed to be there, and he took off through the window to his house down the road. He never thought twice about it. Wasn't her mum. It was the sister of the lady her mum was helping, and she figured out through talking to her sister where her family lived and her mum's working schedule. She came in, and this is where I don't know details, and I'm glad I don't. My friend's younger brother got away to the neighbors to call the police. The lady brutally murdered my friend a week before Christmas. They had to look through the presents, and I don't know where they found it, but they did. I wasn't allowed to go to her funeral. I worked the midnight shift at a gas station, and I have for quite a while at various stations in different areas with varying levels of criminal activity. Of course, I have regulars. I'm a small-statured woman like my partner, who works the other half of the week, and we've always been partners, so these regulars often worry about us and keep watch on creepy occurrences when they can. I had one man who worked in the metro an hour away who would stop in every morning to buy cigarettes. He never smiled or seemed friendly, and as I often do, I tried to think of what I could do that might make him smile one day. It took many months, but I finally pulled it off by having his cigarettes ready on the counter and already scanned for him to pay for. As he walked in, he smiled and then asked me, "Do you ever get scared on the night shift because you're a small girl? It's not safe." I said I sometimes did, but we could lock the doors and hide if we had to, and that the provincial police had a station close by and came in often to get their highway vehicles washed. I had a good rapport with those police. He nodded and then told me a story about when he first moved to our country from Eastern Europe with his wife and child back in the late 80s, early 90s. He fell asleep at work one night at the gas station where he worked midnights. When he woke up, the phone had been ringing for hours, and his manager was shaking him violently, asking if he was all right. He said he was fine. What was the problem? He was sorry he fell asleep. His manager screamed that it was fine. He fell asleep. Just look outside. All of their motor oil was missing, and the outside of the place was a mess. The thieves had come and swiped all the oil, but left him be because he slept through the entire thing. Then they moved down the road to the next station for an encore. At that station, the clerk was awake and fought back, so the thieves stabbed him to death and left him to bleed out. When he finished telling me this, he concluded that if you ever feel sleepy, just lock the door and do it. It might save your life. I don't work at that station anymore, but I think about that man all the time and wonder how his grandkids are doing. Like and subscribe for the next videos. This happened when I was around 13 to 14 years old in the late 90s. One of my friends growing up had a beach house, and I would occasionally get invited there. Their family had money, and the house was huge, quite a cool place too. They even had a full-time maid who had her own apartment at the back of the house. One day, they went there for a long weekend, and when they opened the door, the place had been ransacked. Everything was a mess. TVs were missing, furniture was missing, things were broken. You get the picture. They went to check on the maid, and her apartment was empty. All of her belongings had disappeared. The gruesome parts I left out obviously relate to what happened to the maid. Apparently, she had been harmed before losing her life. The police found evidence of what had been done to her. The horror that woman must have endured was unimaginable. I don't know the full extent of what happened. I don't even know if the police knew. What I do know is that the details were disturbing enough to leave the family incredibly shaken and to sell the place shortly after. The case happened around that time, but the perpetrator was never publicly identified, and I never saw the case appear on TV. At first, this case seemed to be rumored by everyone to be connected to the cartel, but it actually wasn't. I don't live in Mexico, and another point is that the perpetrator seemed to know every nook and cranny of the house and handled everything perfectly, from erasing traces. If my friend's dad's dog hadn't smelled the strange odor from the body, they would likely have thought this was just a missing person case or a kidnapping. After all, everything remains a mystery, as the perpetrator has still not been found. My house sits farther back in the lot than most other houses. It is a strange layout as well. The sidewalk runs the length of the living room and ends at the front porch, which lets into the living room. Large windows that do not open allow great light to get into the living room, but at the cost of no privacy. The rest of my family was on vacation, and having the house to myself, I decided I would get smashed. Well, I passed out on the couch in the living room at about 9, when I realized I was too scared to walk back to my room. The couch is right underneath these big windows. I woke up suddenly, not knowing why. I had a severe case of the chills, and I could not figure out why. Then the banging started. It came from right above me. I did not move, but I opened my eyes and looked up at the window. Someone was standing there, pounding on the glass. Without moving, I looked at the cable box. It was around 3 in the morning. The banging continues. Then it stopped suddenly, but I still did not move. Suddenly, it commences again, coming from 2 different directions now. Someone is banging on the window, and another person is banging on the front door. They kept doing it, would not go away. Finally, after about 40 minutes, they quit. It was the most terrifying event I can recall at the moment. It made me a nervous wreck after that. I called a friend the next day to see if he would come over and stay for the rest of the week, and his response was, "What the fuck for? So that we can both be murdered in our sleep? Thanks a lot, asshole." Back in 2004, I was a young/dumb 17-year-old country girl in the city for the first time for college. One night, I decided I could totally safely walk back to my dorm at around 1:30 in the morning, despite not really knowing where I was. Of course, I instantly end up wandering around a terrible part of the city. Most of the streetlights are busted out, trash everywhere, loud arguments from inside the dilapidated as-fuck row houses. In short, I wouldn't even want to be here in the middle of the day. A car drives up behind me and slows down, so they're keeping pace with me for nearly an entire block. I look over, and there are 5 unsavvy-looking men inside. By this point, I was approaching an intersection, and they pulled up, made a left, and stopped in the street directly in my path. Motherfuck. I completely panic at this point and just stand there, right in front of them. My mind went completely blank. I've never been that scared in my life. It didn't even make sense to try to run, because they would have caught me without question. I'm not really sure how long I stood there, but suddenly the porch light in the house just past the car came on. The dude casually strolls outside carrying a bag of trash, and the car peels away. I completely break down crying and shaking. Dude spots me and listens to my probably incoherent story, takes me inside and gives me a soda. Then he and his roommate walk me back to my dorm. They were both lovely and invited me to check out their stand-up sometime, but unfortunately, I was too young to get into a bar. I never saw them again, don't even remember their names, but feel pretty confident that if that guy hadn't decided to take his trash out at 1 a.m. on a Saturday, my life would have taken a really shitty turn that night. I completely accept that this was totally my fault, and a horribly dumb thing to do. I was extremely fortunate, and am no longer that stupid. My mother told me this not too long ago, but it happened about 10 years ago now. When my cousin was 17 to 18 years old, she was in a car crash and died a couple of weeks later in the hospital. She was really close to my dad's sister, our aunt, and used to babysit her kids, who were no older than 4 years old all the time. Our aunt's house was under construction just before she passed away, and it continued after she passed away. One day, my aunt got a phone call while she was at work from one of the construction workers, complaining about a teenage girl who keeps showing up at the house and walking around, and that she shows up several times during the weeks, and it has been happening for a couple of weeks. My aunt asks for a description of the girl to see if she knows her from around the neighborhood, and sure enough, the description perfectly matches my cousin, who died a few weeks before. Long brown hair, red baseball cap, denim dungarees, and a white jacket. When my aunt got home, she showed them a picture of my cousin, and they all agreed that it was the girl they seen walking around the site. This story really freaked me out when I heard it because our family was never one to believe in anything paranormal or have anything of the paranormal sort happen to them before. I have some stories that scare the heck out of me, but I'm not sure how you all will react because it's not your mess-em-up brain. Shortly after graduating from high school, I woke up one morning and found my father dead in our living room. I tried giving CPR, but he was already dead by the time I came out. I suffered PTSD from this event and would regularly have nightmares where I would be walking to the living room and I would realize what I was about to see and I would start screaming before I got there and then I would wake up screaming. This lasted about a year, during which I was not a functioning human being. I would stay awake for days to avoid experiencing the dream again. Then one day, I had a mental break in the middle of the day. According to my girlfriend, who is now my wife, I tensed up like I was having a seizure for about an hour straight. In my mind, I had to keep living out that morning over and over, but I would stop myself before I went into the living room with a primal scream, which my wife said I would do in real life as well, until I finally let myself go into the living room and see my father's dead body. After I came out of it, I did not have the nightmares anymore. Flash forward to 2005, I joined the army and am in Iraq. I was leading a convoy, and we had intel that terrorists were sending children out in front of convoys to get them to stop and ambush them. As I'm driving, a kid runs out about 300 meters in front of my vehicle, and I freeze. We had orders to run over anyone in our way, and I was dreading having to make this decision. My truck chief is screaming at me to floor it, so I do, and the kid dodges out of the way at the last second. When we get to the next FOB, I go to get some sleep, but I'm disturbed about the moral choices I had made that day. As I fall asleep, I have a nightmare that I am driving again, and the kid jumps out in front of me. This time I run him over, but then stop feeling the horror of what I did. I go to check the body, and as I go around to the back of the truck, I get that same dread I used to. Somehow in my brain, I remember my old nightmares and assure myself it's not the same. As I get around the truck, I see my father's dead body, and I go straight into my primal screaming again, only to wake up screaming and running. I mean, I am at a full sprint as I wake up, and in a part of the FOB I don't recognize. I thankfully haven't suffered from these nightmares anymore, but I'm in constant fear of my own screw-up mind. Like and subscribe for the next videos.